So having failed to really talk about MBTI critiques in the last little video, I'm going to try to talk about it in this video. I think maybe a helpful thing is for me to read it from Vince Utux, whose name I mispronounced, his comment that he made on my channel. I've got it right up here because I think it's a good way to kind of encapsulate the feeling of what I wanted to talk about. And he asked, what do you think of MBTI critiques? The people who think that MBTI is not accurate, MBTI is I think he meant to say MBTI is like astrology. MBTI tests are not accurate, MBTI is just purely for entertainment, etc. You know what I'm talking about, that kind of stuff. The idea that the MBTI is BS. And just on that topic, it's really interesting. I'm actually, now that I really think about it, it's very interesting. It's really kind of a fad I've seen. Excuse me. There's really kind of a remarkable amount of divide on this, which to me is always a sign that there's something very interesting going on with the subject of interest. If there is controversy over it, where you don't have people who you have people who actually like really hate this thing. You don't have people who are indifferent. You have much more of a divide and a contrast going on. You definitely have that with MBTI. You have people who really don't like it or who really criticize it and can't seem to do so, I don't know, professionally. There's a lot of very unprofessional thing, you know, in the community, but there's a lot of very unprofessional critiques of MBTI. There are more professional critiques. To be honest, I'm going to defer, like I said in the last video, and you can go to those things there, but as far as and this is a drawing board video, so I'm really just one of those things that please be kind to me in these particular videos. Then again, maybe that defeats the point. But I'm really not preparing my thoughts here. But so I hope I don't come off as an idiot. But that's also part of the reason I'm doing this, so that I feel like, you know what, I'm going to do my best to not be afraid of coming off that way, because this is who I am. This is what you're getting, and I don't want to take that too far, but it's kind of the point that if I do end up sounding like an idiot, well, this is my process of trying to hammer things out to make the video. So, when I read something like this, the first thing in my head is, I don't know. Just to be completely honest, I don't really understand critiques of typology in the MBTI a lot, and that's what I meant by deferring to the articles in the last video that I made. Because I said that because I feel like there's a lot of technical issues that, me personally, I don't really care about, but I still feel like are really important, because I know that I'm wrong about things, or I'm naive about things, and so I say, listen, I think they say things better than I do, in talking about things like studies on the reliability of the test, or really, if you ever, I'm sure if you've ever watched Vox's lovely video I talked about in the last video, on the Myers-Briggs test being totally meaningless. A lot of the things that they bring up in there, I say bring up because it's all they do anyway. A lot of the things they bring up in there are addressed by articles that are thought out and with people who currently have the energy to do that coherently, which apparently I don't have. That's why I'm doing it like this for now. But setting stuff to do with, I guess the main thing for me is well, two things. The first thing is really all the concerns about Jungian typology always seem to reduce down to they always seem to reduce down to the idea or the criticism that, don't you feel like, and this is what I get asked a lot of the time, and it actually kind of irritates me because I don't, like, I understand it, but I've more and more kind of started to be like, what are you even talking about? Like, to be honest, I don't understand this criticism anymore. Don't you think that human beings are too complex in order to, put them into 16 categories? That's a very common criticism, and I think, honestly, that all criticisms of MBTI that I've ever seen in their own way reduce down to that, or that is the motivating question or critique behind that drives people to really rail on MBTI or really be uncomfortable with it and to champion the Big Five instead. Because the Big Five is a trait test, whereas the MBTI is the type test. They pick out the MBTI, I think, because that's the most popular one, so it's kind of like the poster boy for type personality testing. And people don't like that specifically because they feel like it is limiting. And that's what I feel like things actually reduce down to, is that the official question is, don't you think that human beings are too complex? And I'm going to be presumptuous and say that, as far as I can tell, the underlying concern really beneath that question is more of just the statement. It's not a question, it's a statement that I'm uncomfortable with your type test because I feel like you're telling me what I'm like, and therefore telling me how I'm going to behave and describing my mind, and in that way limiting my agency, because you're supposing to tell me that you can predict my behavior. And so there's kind of this sense of the classic problem of, if God knows everything, then is there really free will? Because if he knows what's going to happen with absolute certainty, then doesn't that mean you've already done it? So, and that whole kind of problem. And so I feel like that is a part of it. Maybe a variation on that I've heard, but I think it does still reduce back to the same thing. But a variation is people feel that it's limiting. They feel that this limits your human potential, it limits the scope of your thinking, and prevents you from making yourself become the best person you could be. And that's something that a lot of other YouTubers have talked about, I think very well, that the simple answer to that is, my simple answer is, I'm confused as to what you're talking about. I think because I don't understand what you're trying to posit in its place. And that's kind of really my main critiques of the Myers-Briggs, is that I'm like, okay, that's great, but what are you proposing that we do instead? You're not proposing anything. And in my very first video and throughout all my videos, I've always tried to, my whole kind of purpose behind this has been, as I've stated in the channel trailer, and I've stated in the first video, and I've stated along the way, and I want to make clear, assuming anyone actually watches this far in this particular video, but I want to make clear that the reason that I'm so fascinated by Myers-Briggs is because I find it invaluable for understanding how other people think, and really understanding the fact that other people don't think like I do. And I don't think like other people, and really being able to comprehend that, especially with the function axes. That's why I love the function axes, because I find with them, it really helps to stretch my mind out to understand, and I've talked about this before, but to really to understand even if it turns out to be bogus, which honestly, I'll talk about that in a moment. It doesn't make any sense for it to be bogus. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. But sorry, I lost my train of thought. is bogus. Dang it. Well, let me start over then. Yep, I completely blanked out. So sorry. You can fast forward through this part because I'm too lazy to do it for you. I'm going to go get a drink of water. This is what I wanted to say. For instance, I was having a conversation with a friend a while back, and well, what I've heard is there's, not just with him, but with the adults in my life, as I was starting to get more into Myers-Briggs, there was a concern that they brought up, which to this day still kind of bothers me, in the sense that it irritates me a little bit. There's a sense that personality tests are somehow dangerous because people are afraid they will limit you. And I understand that. And it makes sense when you take this test that, you're like, I don't want this to limit me. I don't want it to take over and limit my growth in some way by telling me what I am and therefore not giving me any chance of what I could become or something like this. And so this is where if anyone's watching this far into the video, I'm going to ask you to make sure that you call BS on this. But as far as I know, I have never met anyone who has really legitimately actually that's been a problem. That has been the problem. I've met other people who've had problems through, typology and stuff, but honestly, typology has only ever been a good thing for them, I think. And quite frankly, I think that it's the opposite that I'm worried about. I think that really the problem is not, and this is the main thing, is that when people criticize the type personality tests, often what they're criticizing is that they feel you can't put people into these categories. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Because, and I need to do more research, but honestly, the Big Five, I don't like it that much because it does not tell me anything. It's really, for me, it's not, and I'll tell you in a moment why I'm not saying, it's totally meaningless, because that's bogus too. Of course it's meaningful. It's very useful, and I like what Celebrity Types has done, where they've tried to link it to historical figures, because at least that helps to give people something to grip onto. And like I said, that's why this is the drawing board, because I need to make sure I know really what I'm talking about with that. But I look at it and it doesn't tell me anything. It's not deep at all, and it kind of, whereas the Myers-Briggs is, it tells me more about myself, whereas the Big Five just kind of graphs these characteristics. I'm like, okay, that's great. And I don't know. I think I've said this before. If you're not, in order really for all human thinking, as far as I understand, you have to posit concepts, and you have to be willing to make distinctions between things. And that's fine if you say that the world is free-flow and complex, but what, are you just not going to do anything with that? You have to structure it. I use typology as a framework that I can put over the data so I can understand it. And if I don't have any kind of framework to do that, then I'm not going to understand the data. And that's why whenever people say that, where they say that, don't you think that human beings are too complex and that it's free flow and that you should just let them be who they are, that always literally just sounds to me in my ears. It just sounds to me like, I don't like you telling me what I'm going to be like. And I'm like, well, I'm not trying to. Well, I mean, I am trying to, but I'm not limiting you. This isn't going to limit your agency. Honestly, this is going to increase your freedom and agency, because this will, most importantly, allow you to understand how other people think and how you think. Because the truth of the matter is And I think this is where it gets frustrating for people, is because what you're doing is you're telling people that, yeah, you are this and you're not that. And people don't like that because they find it limiting, and I'm sure I don't like that if someone were to come up to me and say that this is going to be, I can't think of any better example other than this, and this is not what I want to talk about. With sexuality and gender, if you approach somebody and you tell them, I feel like that one of the big problems has been that you have one side that feels is trying to assert the fact that saying that because you have certain organs, you are therefore male. They say, and you are not female, and this is the dichotomy, and look, this is just the fact of the matter, and trying to emphasize, at least the smart ones are trying to emphasize the fact that, look, this does not mean necessarily this, and this. This just means this. This does not mean all of these stereotypical aspects. The fact that you are sexually male only means this, and so let's forget about that. And then you have the other side that feels, no, it does mean this, and this, which I don't like that, and I don't like you telling me that that I am this and that I am male and not female. I hope that didn't come off the wrong way, and I'm not trying to make any statement about that. I'm just saying that as far as typology goes, it's more relatable to the first category, where the problem, I think, arises where you're trying to assert that, yeah, you're this, and therefore you're not this. I hope that makes sense. There's a lot of
same problem with my
talking in the
background. My strings class.
Okay, I'm back in this room because the other guys were being very loud. Anyway, whatever. I can't even remember where I was. Oh, yeah. I was talking about why I think that these criticisms come up. I really want to organize my thoughts better, but that's what I think, is that it's that kind of a metaphysical declaration that people don't like. I think that's a part of it. In any case, I think that it's that's what people seem to really get frustrated about, is they don't like this notion that you're telling people what they are. And they feel that by doing so, you are assigning the stereotypes to them. And as we all keep on saying, no, we're not trying to do that. We're trying to say that, look, people do think. Sorry. I'm getting really irritated with the people who are talking, and I shouldn't be. There's no reason I should be. They have every right to talk. It's fine. I'm the one who's recording. Okay, I'm good. We're trying to help them. People do think in certain ways, and they do think according to these tendencies that just by nature can be graphed. If you have 3 data points on the board, you can draw a triangle with them. You can show their relationship with each other. You can. I don't understand the notion that it's too complex to graph. I don't understand what that's supposed to mean. I think it's supposed to mean that you can't come up with a system that will account for everything. I'm like, yeah, I know. I never said that that's what this is. This is just one system. This is supposed to try to help understand that. Why do you not want to understand that? I'm getting really confrontational. I don't mean to in this video, so sorry. I ought to be a little more understanding. But you can tell that because I'm getting defensive, is why. I don't know. I will really need to make this into a better video. But that's what they reduce down to, I think, is. And once again, because this is the drawing board, that's my excuse for throwing out ideas like this that are very unrefined. And maybe I shouldn't be just throwing them out on YouTube, but I don't even know why. I know like most of these videos has literally just been me kind of apologizing for the fact they're informal or trying to work out what exactly I'm even trying to do. But for some reason, I just feel this just today or just for a while, just feel a very strong need to just, to some degree, level with kind of how, to just have the opportunity to really level, even if nobody watches it, just to feel like I have tried to level with you guys in a way, with my thoughts on things. And my consolation is that please don't take anything that I say in these videos as like any kind of a, I don't know how to put it. I'm going to try, I don't know really what I'm trying to say. I guess I'm just trying to say that these are still open to figuring them out and things. But I guess ultimately what I'm trying to say is please don't criticize me, which isn't fair. But I guess I'm mainly just like saying, you know, I think really what I'm trying to say is I'm putting up a sign that says this is not, you can't use this for cannon fodder, because I specifically said that this is not any kind of official position. I'm thinking of some people in particular who apparently don't like my videos very much. But anyway, that's another story. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm probably going to need to end this video here. I might make one or two more. Very, very odd videos. But I lost my train of thought again. So I'll pick up again in another video. Thank you very much.